More epic than we're about to be.
And no, communications team stepping their game up. Really quickly, Holy Bible King James Version was left at the potluck 2 weeks ago. Give a round of applause for Luis for leaving his Bible, everybody. Oh, well, good evening, everyone. How are you? Thank you for helping that, Alexandra. Let's try it one more time. Good evening, you guys. How are we doing? I am excited because this is not our typical night here. I have a lovely speaking partner tonight. Could you guys...
I'm Erin. I'm his wife. My request was that we sat down because I felt like it was just going to be awkward walking.
I'm for sure going to get off the stool. I'm not staying here the whole
Too
time.
fidgety.
I'm not staying
Way
here the whole
too
time.
fidgety for this.
But we are excited. This is a couple things, the reason why we're glad you guys are here. We are starting a 2-week little mini-series called Take Heart. But this is the first time in 4 years that we have taught together. And so,
First time ever.
First time ever?
But ever and prodigal history.
Yes.
Together.
Yes.
Announcements, but that's it.
We titled this series Take Heart. Maybe you guys are familiar with that phrase. Maybe you've never heard it before. It's actually from the words of Jesus. It comes from a passage, John 16:33. If you guys have your Bibles, pull it out, because this is going to be kind of our thesis verse, or maybe theme verse for these next 2 weeks. John 16:33. We'll give you guys a second, and we'll read it together.
All right, if you're there. Oh, I get my own. So exciting. All right, verse 33. I have told you all of this so that you may have peace. Here on earth you will have many trials and sorrows, but take heart, because I have overcome the world.
So it's not the most positive verse. Let's have an honest, vulnerable family time. It's kind of the way we roll here at Prodigal. I want to encourage you to be bold. Raise your hand if you feel like you've faced some kind of adversity, trial, or experienced some kind of sorrow within the past 6 months.
Okay. Honest, yeah.
Raise your hand if you feel like you've experienced adversity, trial, or sorrow probably in the last 30 days. Right? And we don't have to raise our hands, but I bet you there's a good amount of us who would probably say, raise your hand if you're experiencing trial or adversity or sorrow right now. I'm sure we'd get a lot of hands. We did this series because the honest truth is the good thing about being a small church is you really understand the pulse of the church. Right? We know each other. We do life together. And it seems like the past 2 or 3 months we've just been going through some hard seasons, individually and collectively. And so we're really excited to do this series because I think if you notice, it's a universal human experience to go through adversity. Like if you think of all the things that we're different, one of the ways that we are all alike is that we all can look at each other and say, I have gone through adversity, I've experienced sorrow. And Jesus affirms it, right? This is where I like Jesus because he's brutally honest. He doesn't say, follow me and your life will be perfect. He doesn't say a few lines and your life will be golden. He says, look, in this world, you will face trials. And so the question that kind of we're excited to ask isn't, will adversity come? But it's more, what do we do when it comes? Because it's not a question of if, it's when. And then I hope the posture of us then is, okay, so what do we do?
Yeah. We don't want to live in fear of it coming. I feel like I can do that sometimes, trying to prepare for things. But that's what the next 2 weeks are about. We want to talk about, like you said, not if it's going to happen, but when it happens, what are we going to do? And, not to shortcut it when it happens. That's something that I always try to do. That's probably my first default reaction is like, how can I get out of this the quickest? Or how can I avoid this the best? And that's just not possible, unfortunately. Sorry, that's not something we're sharing with you. But we will share just how we have been able to take heart, what that looks like for us, and basically just how to survive the trials that will inevitably come. Will you guys pray with me, and then we'll dive into it? God, I feel unworthy of sharing your words, but I am humbled to do it, and I pray that we just stand out of your way. I think this has been something that you've wanted me to share with Matt for a long time, so I pray that it's clear. I pray that I'm out of my head, and I pray that if people have the heart to hear it, that they would, and that they would walk out of here blessed by your promises and blessed by your goodness and your truth. So use us tonight, God. In your name I pray. Amen. Also, something you should know about me is I cry pretty easily, so that's number one right there.
Beat my bet of how quickly it would happen to you.
Yes. Yeah. Anyways. So, like I was saying about taking heart, we try to shortcut it. What we really all do, probably first thing, even if you're not a list maker or a planner, we take action. We want to take a first step. The second we hear news or encounter our trial, we kind of start to make a plan. We kind of start to try to survive this.
Instead of take heart, I feel like we take action. Right? What do we do? Take action. We take control. We take steps. We take logic. We don't take heart. And yet, what was interesting is we were prepping for this sermon and just bouncing ideas and looking back at our own lives. We feel like adversity and sorrow is a lot like quicksand. In the sense that quicksand is this unique anomaly where the more you struggle, the deeper you sink. Right? You'd think that the way to get out of quicksand is I just got to work really hard and I got to climb my way out, but that's not how it works. You end up only sinking deeper, bringing more damage and pain upon yourself. And we were talking with each other and we said, wow, I feel like that's what it's like for us when we go through adversity. That when we try to claw our way out, when we look at each other and say, it's go time, take action, take steps, that's when we seem like we've inflicted the most pain on ourselves. That when adversity comes, the more we struggle, the deeper we sink, and the more pain that we have caused each other in our lives.
Mm-hmm, definitely. And so something that we've noticed is starting the trial in a complete surrender position is we've noticed a huge change. We've only practiced this once, but we were looking at a statistic, and it said in car accidents, the people that actually usually experience the least amount of damage to their body are people that are sleeping because their body is completely relaxed. They are able to, the seatbelt can do its job, the airbags can do its job. They didn't brace in any way, they didn't stiffen or tighten. They completely allowed their body to be relaxed and experience this amount of damage. And that made so much sense to us. That's what it feels like when a trial, that we have tried to brace against it, that push against it, avoid it, and that did not do good for us. When we lost the movie theater, we had just been there for about a month, and we were really excited to be there. We had told so many people that we felt like we were supposed to be there, and on a Friday, I get a call from Matt saying, effective immediately, we're not allowed to be there anymore. And it just felt like we had just hit our stride. We were so excited about this move, and it's just like gone. And of course, immediately I'm like, okay, so who are you going to call? I'll start Googling places. We'll network. There's someone that's going to host us this Sunday. And he said, you know what? I'm actually not going to do anything today and probably tomorrow. And I'm like, it's Sunday almost. But okay. And he said, I think we'll just meet in a park this Sunday. Let's just not do anything today. I'm going to pray and actually just sit and worship in my office. That's all I'm going to do. And we hung up the phone, and to be totally honest with you, I was relieved. Because I knew that the 2.5 hours left of the Friday workday we had to work with weren't going to give us anything. We weren't going to find anything. There was no solution to be had. The movie theater wasn't going to have a different answer for us in 2 hours. And so that complete surrender changed our interactions together, the way we felt about it. Everything was different.
And it's not even close to our default.
No.
So that's not the way that we're wired or I'm wired. I'm a planner. I always feel like I have 5 steps ahead. And so this idea that when chaos comes or adversity comes, to actually relax and submit is very foreign to me. So I know that for some of you, as we're telling you, hey, instead of fixing it right away, instead of clawing your way out, instead of struggling, that some of you can't even fathom the idea of pausing. And I'm with you. And we were excited to share this because we really noticed the shift. Like, we have had quite our curveballs come our way. And this most recent one, I believe, because we didn't brace. We didn't tense up. We simply kind of went limp spiritually in the sense that we ain't going to do anything now. And it's just been great to see. I feel like just the damage wasn't as much as we thought it would be. There's a verse that I want you guys to open up to. Proverbs 3, verse 5. It's a verse that some of us memorize, spiritual discipline, small group. Can I get a little woo-woo? All right, there you go. So we memorized this verse. It's Proverbs 3, 5. And I want to share it with you guys. It says, if this one isn't underlined or highlighted, make sure you do that. This is a keeper. It says, trust in the Lord with all of your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. And in all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your paths straight. I'm going to read it one more time. It says, trust in the Lord with all of your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. But in all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight. Is the machine reading it right now? Is that God? Or is that a phone? It's totally fine. Okay, so let me tell you why this verse has spoken to me more recently than it has my entire life. So I've always been given that verse in tough times. Maybe you have, right? If you've grown up in the church like we have, when bad things come, you usually have somebody comes up to you and says, just trust in the Lord with all of your heart, and you're going to be fine.
Bumper sticker.
Bumper sticker for days. And I'm sitting here drowning, like minutes away from ripping my hair out, and I'm going, how's that supposed to help? Like, I'm just supposed to trust. I don't even get how to do that, right? It doesn't feel comforting. And that's not because God's word is not powerful, but when you're drowning, when you're going through such an extreme adversity and sorrow, that verse, for me at least, I could never comprehend it. But yet, the beauty of God's word, just recently, he's brought me deeper into it. And this trust word, right, the trust word, it's actually more accurately translated to cling to. And the first time I heard that, I went, that's completely different. Because I immediately got this image, right? When a storm is coming and you're in the midst of a hurricane, I don't just stand in the wind and say, I'm trusting that I'm not going to get blown over. I'm going to go and cling to something. I'm going to run to a pole. I'm going to grab onto something that I know isn't going to be blown away. And as soon as I understood that, wow, this trusting, it's not some intellectual thinking, but it's actually more a physical posture that you are clinging to something. A verse that was never able to speak life into me, it changed my outlook. Because now I feel like when we do experience adversity, I immediately just try to hunker down and cling to something. And rather than intellectually trusting, it's actually clinging to God. It's actually running to him and viewing it a little bit differently.
It still feels like something you can do, because doing nothing feels...
Yeah.
That's really hard. You feel powerless. But as we were planning this, we thought we wanted to tell you, just share with you guys what we do. What does it look like to cling? Because that's another thing. You're like, okay, it's But what do you mean by that? You know, you're not just trusting, you're clinging. Great. What does that mean? Something we've done in the past year when we were just sharing with each other how frustrated we were, how disappointed we were. We shared our disappointments first.
Yes.
We sat in how we felt. We didn't rush through trying to feel better about it. But then we actually decided to go back and forth and share when we felt like this last, and then what happened next. How God had redeemed those moments. How he had created a way when we didn't see one. How he had been faithful when we were praying for something, even if it took years. What was the answer to that prayer? Just, it's so easy to not look backwards, to remember good things that happened, but feel like you're always in the pit. But it's really important to look up from the pit and see times that you did get out of it, that it did get better.
And that was one way for us to cling to God, but there's way more than just that, right? Because we both are also very sensitive to there's some of you guys who maybe go, I can't even think of an experience that I can go to. Like, I don't even remember a time that God has rescued me. So clinging to God. And so we do believe that clinging to God in tough times looks different. Right? For some of you, it might be as simple as just a prayer of, God, help me not blow away. Like that moment where the man calls out to Jesus and says, help me in my unbelief. Just help me not to be blown away. Like, that's clinging to God. And so for us, it was a moment where we got to share about God's goodness, and we got to zoom out of our problem for a little bit, and that was our way to cling together, but also cling to God. But for some of you guys, if it's as simple as getting on your knees and saying, God, help me not get blown away because this storm feels too much, like, I think that's a beautiful way to cling to God. And so I hope Proverbs 3:5, I want you guys to view it differently. I want you to imagine in the midst of a storm, instead of some guy just happily trusting, I want you guys to picture a man or a woman on his knees in fear, clinging to something for dear life. And God, he's pleased with that. He welcomes that. And that's even what the posture that he encourages us to do. Hunker down. Times are going to get tough. Cling to me. And each of us cling a little different.
He's not pleased that we're in that moment,
No.
but he's pleased with us choosing him, like in any way possible, whatever that looks like.
Yes. There's a story that we, at least for me, I'm always drawn to when I'm facing adversity. It's one of my favorite stories in the entire Bible. It's 1 Samuel 24. So again, as we're kind of flipping around, go to 1 Samuel 24, because it's a story that I always see myself in. So check it out. So I'll kind of set the scene. There's a guy named David, right? And David, right before this happens, he used to be Saul's right-hand man. So Saul's the king, right? So he is the most powerful person in all of Israel. Riches, royalty, power, fame. And David is his right-hand man. So David is living the good life, right? He's got comfort. He's got shelter. He's got food. He's got power. He is living, by all means, the good life. And in one day, everything completely changes. See, Saul gets this idea that David is actually trying to sabotage him. And so Saul, the king, decides, I'm going to hunt you down, and I'm going to kill you, David. And David gets word of this plan, and so he flees to the wilderness. He literally becomes a national fugitive, wanted for treason, and the penalty is death. So one day, he's living as royalty, and the next day, he's a fugitive running for his life. Does it set the scene? Is it fair to say that David is going through some adversity? Right? If you guys set the scene, we read stories like, no, he's a wanted man. He's being chased every day. So check out 1 Samuel 24. I'm going to phone Bible tonight. No judgment. Don't laugh.
I'm laughing because this phone case is just seeing a lot of life.
Hey, frugal. Last series. 1 Samuel 24. Okay. It says, verse 1. It says, after Saul returned from fighting the Philistines, he was told that David had gone into the wilderness of En-Gedi. So Saul, check this out, chose 3,000 elite troops from all Israel and went to search for David and his men near the rocks of the wild goat. So 3,000 people, elite soldiers, are looking to kill David. Verse 3, at the place where the road passes some sheepfolds, Saul went into a cave to relieve himself. But as it happened, David and his men were hiding farther back in that very cave. So pause, set the scene. David's hiding in the wilderness, right? David happens to wander into a cave to hide. Saul, who's chasing David, wanders into the same cave. These two people are about 50 feet apart, probably a cave no bigger than this. It's pitch black. They're in the same room. You can imagine the tension is about to boil. And then verse 4, look what David's men say. Now's your opportunity. David's men whispered to him, today the Lord is telling you that I will certainly put your enemy into your power to do with you as you wish. So all of David's men are saying, it's time to kill Saul. Our problems, our adversity is going to be done. God has supernaturally delivered Saul into your presence. David, just kill him and we can stop being fugitives. We can go back to living the royalty life. And so David approaches Saul with his sword, and all of David's men are thinking, yes, finally, this sorrow, this adversity is done. But look how this ends. Verse 4 says, wait, now's your opportunity. David's men whispered to him, today the Lord is telling you, I will certainly put your enemy into your power to do with you as you wish. So David crept forward and cut off a piece of the hem of Saul's robe. It's very anticlimactic, right? All of David's men are thinking, yes, you're supposed to cut him in half, not cut his shirt in half, right? But David cuts the shirt, and you actually, as you continue reading the story, he basically says, look, I'm not going to take violence. I'm not going to take matters into my own hands. I'm going to trust in the Lord's timing, and it is going to be the Lord who delivers me. And the reason why I love this is because if I was in that moment, I would have just took action. I would have said, sweet, this is obviously the logical thing to do, is take the next step, kill Saul, my problems are done. But David doesn't take logic. He doesn't take action. He doesn't take control. He takes heart and he says, look, I'm going to step back and I'm going to surrender my plans. And if it's God's will for me to get out of this mess, then God will make a way, but I'm not going to make my own way out of this. It's a beautiful picture of what it means to take heart. I feel like in our life, in my life, I'm so tempted to just shortcut whatever trial I'm going through. That's what we talked about. Like whenever I'm in adversity, I just think, what's the quickest way for me to get the heck out of here? And it's a temptation that I think, if we're honest, a lot of us have experienced. Right? You're longing to be married so badly, and every day you're not married, there's a sorrow and adversity. And the temptation is just go be with that guy or girl that you know will marry you. Whether or not the Lord's choice or the right for you, it doesn't matter. Just shortcut the process and get married. Or you just got fired and you're so overwhelmed and all you see is your bills adding up. So the temptation is just, hey, take a job, take any job, despite if it's bad for you, despite if it's not good for your soul. I see people shortcut all the time. I know I've been tempted. You experience loss. You lose a loved one. You miscarry. And the temptation, rather than go through the actual grief cycle, the temptation is just to numb out. Pornography, alcohol, drugs, as a way to shortcut the pain. I want to get out of this pain as quick as possible. So what's the quickest way out? Some kind of narcotic that'll numb me out. The temptation to shortcut has always been there. And David says, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to shortcut the process. I will take heart. I will cling to God. And it'll be God who delivers me or else. And I just love that story. And I love how it sets the scene. I also think it's a lot like a lifeguard. Right? They say that the hardest person for a lifeguard to save is someone who's trying to save themselves. Right? That the more the person struggles, the more the person tries to fight, the lifeguard's like, just let me do my job. I will save you. And I wonder, how much does God see us like that? That we are kicking, we're fighting, we're saying, I can handle it, God, just give me out. And he goes, look, I will actually rescue you if you let me. But how many of us throw a right hook to God? We put up our walls and they actually make the process even worse.
So you can definitely see how David took heart, and I think there's been times where I felt like, okay, we did a good job of taking heart. And then we hit a place that felt like, I've been taking heart for a really long time, and we're still here. So it's hard because there's times when you don't see a way out. So what are you supposed to do when there really doesn't seem like there is any more ways out? You've hit the end of this, and now it's just hard to continue taking heart. Our story of infertility is where I felt like I just stopped being able to take heart. You're not even able to see an infertility doctor until you've been trying for a year. So your heart is already breaking because there's this misconception that getting pregnant is easy. And for us, that was just not the case. And in that year, my middle sister, Megan, had been trying as well. She gets pregnant. I'm super excited by her news. I'm thinking, oh, maybe we'll be pregnant together. That'll be so exciting. She's pregnant. She has a baby girl. We love her. It's great. We're still trying. I'm thinking of all the different occasions that would be fun to announce. Birthdays, family parties that we're all going to be together and that everyone might be surprised still if we announce it then. Holidays come and go, and we're not pregnant. And I am just really feeling like God left us out to dry, like it's just not going to happen for us. And we go on a retreat together up in Big Bear, and I'm sitting there about to read actually the story that I am going to read to you next. And I get a call from my oldest sister, and she's telling me that she's pregnant. And I'm so excited for her. And I totally feel like God just forgot about me. And I didn't understand. I didn't understand this timing. I had done a great job of taking heart. I really believed that it was going to happen for us some way, somehow. But what do you do in that moment that you want to be thrilled for someone you love so much and you feel devastated? And I just sat and did what I'm doing now and just cried those hot tears down my face and felt really abandoned and felt like I had hit a dead end of my taking heart. I didn't know how to take heart one more time. And so I sat and I'm by myself and I decided to read the commentary that I was excited to read all along. And it's about Moses and the Red Sea. And I don't know if we have a picture.
Brandon, you see the image? I threw up an image. Let's see if we can put it up there.
So Moses is leading 600,000 Israelites through the desert. And they're trusting in him. And he leads them through this narrow passage between two high cliffs. And at the end of this route that they've been on for a while is a sea. There's nothing left but this beach that actually leads to nowhere. The cutoff of this picture just goes back into the rocks. And they're all on this piece of land, and they see the Egyptians coming to kill them. And the only way back out is the way that they came, through that little narrow inlet. I don't know if you can see it. And so they just start to shake their fists at Moses. We left and risked our lives to just be killed now. You've led us to this place to just be murdered brutally with no fight left. We have a little bit of time. We should go back out the way we came. There's only one way. Maybe some of us will survive it. And what they say, it's really bad that we didn't bring our Bibles up here, is in Exodus 14, verse 10. You don't have to flip there. I think we have it up. It says, as Pharaoh approached, the people of Israel looked up and panicked when they saw the Egyptians overtaking them. They cried out to the Lord, and they said to Moses, why did you bring us out here to die in the wilderness? Weren't there enough graves for us in Egypt? What have you done to us? Why did you make us leave Egypt? Didn't we tell you this would happen while we were still in Egypt? We said, leave us alone. Let us be slaves to the Egyptians. It's better to be a slave in Egypt than a corpse in the wilderness.
I have felt that.
We have said that.
I felt that.
Why did you let us plant a church? Why did you give us a desire to be parents? Why did you? And then it's just, we're here. And Moses, not actually knowing the plan that was next, says, don't be afraid. Just stand still and watch the Lord rescue you today. The Egyptians you see today will never be seen again, and the Lord himself will fight for you. Just stay calm. I'm sure he wasn't even fully believing those words, really hoping that they were the right words. you know? I mean, he had seen God do miracles, but he needed a huge one in that moment. And look at his faith. It was incredible. As they're sitting at this dead end, he says those words. And then God made a way when there was literally no way out. He made a way that they had never seen or dreamed of. There's just, like, I created so many opportunities for God to have us be pregnant in the perfect way. And my ways just weren't as good as his. Like, that's the truth. The ways it happened for us and the way that our trials have happened, I didn't see a way out the way that he created it. I never have.
The reason why we love this story is because I think hopefully you guys can see yourself in it. Mm-hmm. You're trapped. The walls are closing in on you. Your enemy, your problem is bearing down, coming straight at you. And you throw your hands up and say, we're screwed. There's literally no way out. And then God does the unthinkable. I immediately, when I hear this, I think of Prodigal's history, right? So for those of you guys who know, Prodigal was planted with another pastor. It was me and him, and I was the associate, and he was the senior. He was supposed to be the guy that's going to take this and lead this, and I'm always just supposed to be his kind of co-guy and right-hand man. And then one day, out of the blue, he's out. He wasn't faithful. He said, Matt, I'm done. Click. And I remember feeling like this. Like, what do you mean? There wasn't even words. And I felt the walls closing in on me. I felt the water rising. And I truly felt, this is a dead end, God. Why did you lead us to plant Prodigal for 1 year in, for it all to die? Why didn't we skip all this pain? Why did I do any of this? And then God does the unthinkable.
There was a dead end. We literally felt like we had hit a dead end.
4 years later, Prodigal is still here, still making disciples, and I think that here I am doing my dream job. I'm so thankful that I get to be the shepherd of Prodigal. And in the moment, it felt like a complete dead end. And so we really want to encourage you, because I believe there's some of you right now who feel like you're in a dead end. You feel the water rising, you see the enemies coming, and you see no way that somehow this can be salvaged. And we want to encourage you that when we don't see a way, God does. God does.
We're wanting you to know that complete surrender and taking heart is not pretending that everything is okay. It's not putting on a smile and just like gritting your teeth through it and just waiting to get out the other side.
Putting a bow on it, right? Don't we see this all the time in Christian community? How are you doing? Well, my mom just got diagnosed with cancer, but it's okay. It's okay. We're doing good. It's like, what? Stop. What did you just say? Right? That's not what we're saying. Yeah. Taking heart is not putting a smile on and acting like you're not in the storm.
Yeah. And we know that some trials, like we could still be struggling with infertility. It's not that just if you take heart long enough, it's going to end perfectly. Like we have learned that time and again that it doesn't do that. And so what we love is, David makes it really easy to follow his example. He laments to God a lot. He tells God he feels abandoned. He feels betrayed. He feels like God has, like I felt, like left him out to dry. Where is he? I don't feel you, God. I don't see you, God. Do you even exist anymore? Like David makes it so clear.
So
Jesus
wrong.
in the garden, he prayed to not have to do it. He didn't want to have to go through with it. Jesus shows us so clearly that you don't have to just always have the perfect answer or the perfect heart. That's just not how we work.
Taking heart, we want to be clear. It's not pretending that what you're going through isn't hard. And we're also not advocating for complete and total complacency, right? We're not ever advocating for laziness. But we're saying our first step or our first thing that comes to our mind should be a posture of surrender versus taking action, right? So we're not saying don't ever do anything, right? Have adversity, just sit and God will totally, there's moments where we do have to take steps, but I hope we take steps only after we've paused, fallen on our knees. God said, help me in my unbelief, and clung to him. Like that needs to be our default. And then, right, then maybe God continues to let out breadcrumbs. So it's not pretending it's okay. It's also not total complacency. It's a surrender. It's a posture of arms up. God, I'm going to pray before I take action. And so we want to kind of end just with this. We know that there's some people in this room right now who you are going through your Red Sea moment. You are going through your storm. If you're honest with yourself, you feel every day the waters are rising and you don't feel a way out. And I hope Proverbs 3:5 speaks to you in just a different way. I'm not asking you to shout from the rooftops that I trust in God. I'm asking you to get on your knees and cling to Him. The storm is going crazy outside, and cling to Him. Zoom out like Erin and I did. Remember the times that God has been faithful. Maybe just say a prayer of, God, don't help me blow away. But if you are in here, please do not leave without first clinging to God.
Zooming in usually causes us to, I feel like, spiral to a place that, can get really unhealthy, and you can't see beyond it. Like he said, we don't want you to feel like you can never worry. Like, that's impossible. Like, we do that. But we hope that you think in those moments that even though I can't see a way out, that God does. I've literally had to pray that before. My exact prayer sounded something like, I don't even know if I fully believe that you're going to make this better or redeem this. Actually, my heart doesn't feel like it's even ever going to be possible. And so, God, if you can allow my heart to start to see how you are doing it. He has changed my heart. I have prayed things like, I don't want us to keep leading prodigal. I would love for this to end. If you want us to keep leading prodigal, change my heart. I mean, not wanting to do it too, I couldn't be more all in. That was all God, because I shared that with Matt so many times. He can change hearts. It's you opening that up to Him. It's you being honest with Him, not sugarcoating it.
And if we know that there's temptation right now to shortcut the process, that whatever you're going through right now, there is the devil in your ear saying there's an easy way out. Leave your wife. Do this. Take this drug. It'll numb the pain. You'll get out of your problems quicker. Whatever the lie is to shortcut the process, we want to encourage you to rebuke that and say, I will trust in God's timing. And so if you're being tempted on ways to get your way out, and you know it's by means that are unhealthy, and you know it's by means that are not in accordance with God's will, you know it's from the enemy. And in the same way that David said, I will not lay a finger on Saul, my hope and prayer is that we would say, I will not step into this. I will trust in God's timing. We believe there's hope, and we believe taking heart is the first step in just seeing a glimmer. So if you can't even see the glimmer of a light at the end of the tunnel, we're glad you're here. We're glad that you're honest. But we want to encourage you to take heart, because we do believe a glimmer of light will shine through. God, you are a good God. And even when we can't feel it, even when we don't understand it, God, we can fall on our knees and cling to you. God, the temptation is to get out of this as quick as possible, to take action, to take control, to take logic, to take steps. But I just pray, God, that Holy Spirit, you would remind us to take heart, to surrender, to not fight the lifeguard, to not struggle in the quicksand, but instead, God, to surrender and say, I'm going to pray, and I'm going to worship, and I'm going to read, because I believe that the more I struggle, the worse that it becomes. And so instead, God, may you teach all of us what it looks like for us to cling, what it looks like for us to take heart. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. We're going to enter into a time of worship right now, and I want to, just kind of vulnerable thing right now, but this first song is actually a song that I wrote, and I wrote it in a time of adversity. I wrote it in a time where I felt like I was drowning, and I wrote it specifically with this Exodus story in mind. If I could share the chorus, it says, you split the sea, and so I'll believe that you will rescue me. And it was basically the premise that, God, if you did the unthinkable once, then why can't you do the unthinkable again? And so whether you're in that place to believe that, I just ask that you let those words be sung over you. We specifically set up pillows over here. I would love to see some people clinging to the cross and getting on their knees as a form of surrender. We have communion set up at the stations. We would love for you guys to cling to God in his gift of his Son. Spread out. Use this time to hunker down and to take heart.